This is genuinely insane as Shams Charania, on an appearance on the Pat McAfee show today, revealed multiple massive Spurs updates, including a big update as to the Spurs' plans moving forward for a big trade this offseason, even linking Kevin Durant once again to the Spurs. But it's not just that. We have to dive into what he said on that front, but also he gave a big update on Victor Wembanyama and how the Spurs see his status heading into next season. We got a bunch of awesome stuff to cover on this episode of Spurs Digest, and you know what? We're just going to get straight into it. And I want to start just by saying, boy, he said a couple big things about the Spurs here today on the Pat McAfee show. I didn't have a chance to cover this right as it came out, but right now we're here on it for you guys. And the first thing is what he had to say about Wemby. Have a look. He said that everything I hear is that the Spurs fully expect Wembanyama to be ready to go for the start of next season, for the start of training camp. Straight up, that's what it is. He said, look, this is massive news for the Spurs. Of course it is. You know, they were joking around on the show, oh, you know, they're Indiana, oh, it doesn't have anything to do with the Pacers. But regardless, this is something that we have heard, at least indications of, that Wembanyama should be good for the start of next season. But to hear Shams straight up come out and say this, he's going to be ready to go for the start of training camp. And I mean, you know, what kind of other better news could you possibly get? I mean, looking at Wemby's stats from last year, of course, I mean, 24.5 points a game, led the league in blocks. I believe he also led in total blocks, even though he missed like 36 games, didn't qualify for any awards, everything like that. So 48% from the field, 35% from three. I feel like, oh, the camera's moving. It's trying to adjust to where my head is. I feel like I don't need to justify Victor Wembanyama's presence here and how important he is to the team, but regardless, when you get these kind of reports from this kind of insider like Shams Charania, it just starts to get you hyped for next season. And, you know, not just with Wemby going to be good to go. I mean, that's one of the biggest pieces of news you could get, of course. But there's going to be a lot of change with this roster, with Chris Paul likely gone, maybe a video coming out on that as well. But Jeremy Sochan hopefully taking that next step as well, hoping his back is healing up well. Devin Vassell as well. And we're looking at this lineup, a guy who was injured for, you know, a good chunk of the season and then came back not at 100%. I know I talk about all the time, but it's very true. Stephon Castle going to take that leap to the sophomore, and then you got probably Dylan Harper coming in the draft. Like, when you look at everything lining up for the Spurs, it sure makes it seem like the Spurs are kind of ready to go in right now, kind of ready to make a little playoff push. I mean, we were almost there this year. I mean, there's no doubt about that. Could have been a play-in team if everyone was healthy down the stretch. Again, De'Aaron Fox is another guy that I didn't even mention because, like, you know, I don't forget about him, but, like, there's so many other guys. He's going to play a full season with the Spurs, hopefully fully healthy as well. So, with all that said, with Wemby looking to be good to go, Fox hopefully good to go, Vassell and Sochan having a full offseason to recover, looking at the Spurs heading into next year is like looking at a team primed to make a big leap in the standings. And Shams had something else pretty big to say on that front. So I want to dive into this here. First thing he said is they also have a ton of assets. They have tradable contracts. They have the number 2 pick and the number 14 pick in this year's draft. He went on to say that we have a bunch of other picks in the future, a bunch of things we can trade. And he said, you know, if there ever was a guy like Giannis Antetokounmpo, but then stopped himself and said, look, I think Kevin Durant is another guy. There was mutual interest at the deadline. And we've heard Kevin Durant talks to the Spurs before. We've heard some people say, yeah, Kevin Durant to San Antonio. Yeah, you know, there was maybe some interest. To hear Shams come out and say this again right now in the heart of when we're talking about the Spurs potentially making a big trade this offseason with a lot of fans, myself included, saying, look, I'm team draft Dylan Harper. I think you guys are too. Hashtag draft Dylan Harper. So I wouldn't want to move the number 2 pick for KD, but the fact that he's name dropping KD once again just makes me think like maybe there is something serious to this. Like there were rumors at the deadline. Spurs were linked to him. Obviously, he's an insanely good player. 26.5 points a game, 6 rebounds, 4 assists. And I do understand the camp of people, and which is honestly has probably been myself for most of this year as well. So I guess it's maybe a bit hypocritical. Who says like, oh, you know, I don't think Kevin Durant's a good fit for this team. Like, you know, like, yeah, I mean, stylistically it works, but long term, what's the point? You're paying him $50-something million. At the same time, though, the more I think about this, again, it does depend on the trade package. Like, I'm not saying go out and trade Castle in the number 2 pick. No chance in the world do we do that for Kevin Durant, for like 1 year of Kevin Durant, right, at $50 million. But Making a team better is never a bad thing. And seeing how Kevin Durant fits on this team, how he can elevate this team as he is getting older, and then maybe finding someone that can fill in his shoes or replace him in some way, just to have him around this team, to elevate that offense, to see what the team needs, to have him mentor the players, that is worth something as well. So, not only is he a guy the Spurs have reportedly had interest in, I do think, again, stylistically, he's a good fit. Problem is, I just don't see a trade package that the Suns would accept from the Spurs that would entice them to give up Kevin Durant that the Spurs are actually willing to pay. But that does go on to the other thing Shams had to say here. And I want to bring this up because I thought this one was a lot bigger. Whoa, changing the camera again. I think they're going to be looking very actively. Look, I spelled actively wrong. That's how you know this is real. None of this AI generated. This is me typing this out. I think they're going to be looking very actively to see, is there a wing player that we can bring in to take us over the top? And this to me is one of the quotes that, like, when I heard him say this, I was like, whoa, like that's big. It was almost at the end of a clip that the Pat McAfee show posted on Twitter. Shams straight up, I think the Spurs are going to be looking very actively to see, is there a wing player we can bring in to take us over the top? What player is defined by this more than Kevin Durant or Giannis Antetokounmpo? We've talked a lot about Giannis, and I think the trade package to get him is something a lot of Spurs fans would not want to give up, and that's fair enough. But the fact that his sources, I know the Spurs are pretty tight-lipped usually, so maybe there's not some kind of big source from the Spurs organization, but the fact that he's saying this is not nothing. Right now, does that mean it's Giannis or Kevin Durant? No, not necessarily. There's a lot of other names we've talked about and potentially bringing into this team, like Cam Johnson, and for some reason Nets fans have told themselves that we're willing to give up the number 2 pick for Cam Johnson. No, like never, ever. Why? No. What? Anyway, go look at Twitter. I don't know why that's some Spurs fans too. Not you guys though. You guys are the smart ones down below. But seriously, like there's a lot of guys winning wings that can come in and benefit this team right now. And I don't think it has to be that superstar level player. Now, again, Giannis and KD are the 2 biggest ones because they're Hall of Fame players, first ballot. They're 2 of the best players in the world every single given day. But I don't think that is the strict definition that we need to run with when Shams says, I think they're looking actively to see, is there a wing player we can bring in to take us over the top? That doesn't mean a superstar player that can carry us over the top. That means someone that we can bring in that is better than anyone on this roster at the wing position now that will help the Spurs long term or short term. Because bringing us over the top, let's be honest, that hill we're climbing now, we're still in the first part of the mountain. We're not over the hill yet. We're still climbing. Like, we missed the play-in because we're still young. Wembanyama was in an injured second season, or blood clot, I guess that's an injury, but still, when you look around the league, you don't really know a lot of the time the actual guys that are available for trade because not everyone's name gets put out there until the day they are traded, right? Like right now, looking at the wing depth, there's no doubt the Spurs could use some more. I mean, Vassell is going to be a lot better next year. Sochan, I think, is going to be better next year as well. Harrison Barnes is still good. Julian Champagnie's good. But none of these guys, at least yet, scream, take us over the top. Wemby could potentially do that on his own. Stephon Castle and Wemby could be an unbelievable duo, one of the best in the league. Sure, De'Aaron Fox as well. Fox and Wemby with Castle. I mean, I'm talking years from now. And you got Dylan Harper off the bench. That's great. But for the shorter term, like if we want to win in the next couple of years, you want to capitalize on every year that Wemby is a prime player. Like, also got to think of it from this aspect, right? When you look at a guy like Wemby and you look at the numbers he's putting up, you're often waiting for 6, 7, 8 years for your player that you drafted that you want to be the centerpiece of your team to put up these numbers. Wemby is doing it in year 2. So the fact that we don't have to wait for this, like year 1 even, the fact we don't have to wait for this kind of production, the fact that he is there, like, I know his prime could be even better, but what he is doing now is like most players in the leagues, like beyond what their prime even would be. This is like a superstar tier level prime, and he's 21 years old, right? So I just want to reframe that in that sense where like winning now is not that bad of an idea, especially when we have the picks to be able to spend to get certain players. Let me also clarify, I'm not saying give up every pick to try and win in the next 5 years. I think that's a bad decision. I don't think that's what the Spurs are going to do. But when you have an excess of draft picks, when you have an excess of tradable contracts and young guys that you might not always be able to keep on the team with a long-term vision when better players are available, pulling the trigger on a deal to make your team better now is never that bad of an idea. But I'd love to hear what you guys have to say about Shams' recent reports and on Wembanyama, on the trades, all that great stuff down below, because that'll do it for this episode of Spurs Digest. If you enjoyed, leave a like, comment, and most importantly, hit that subscribe button. We have huge things in store for this channel coming very, very soon. I've been your host, Josh Gosse, and I'll catch you in the next one.